Hello everybody to Book Review Mondays. Today, obviously, I am talking about The Diviners by Libba Bray. And I did say in my October wrap-up that I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 because as much as I loved the story, it did progress a little slowly for my liking. So I want to do a really big shout out to April. Her YouTube channel is April Sarah, because she's the one that actually told me to read this book because of how much I loved The Great and Terrible Beauty. So, thank you. So if you don't know what The Diviners is about yet, it's about a girl named Evie and it's 1926. She is a flapper girl. She loves everything about New York, and in a strain of events, she gets shipped to her uncle's house in New York from her hometown of Zenith, Ohio. Basically, Evie has powers to where she can read minds, take scenarios and glimpses of people's pasts just by touching their valuable objects. In a party where she has been drinking, she tells the party goers a secret that she should not have told. It's kind of slander because there's no proof. And she is basically fleeing Zenith in order to get away from the guy who is pressing charges. Anyway, so she goes to New York and she lives with her uncle and she gets to experience his work. He is a professor, but he also manages the Museum of American Folklore, Superstition, and the Occult, where the general population of New York calls it the Museum of the Creepy Crawlies, because there's basically a lot of talismans and cursed objects there. It is really cool and interesting. It does primarily take place in Evie's point of view, because that is kind of her story arc as she is solving this string of murders that are happening in New York City with her uncle. But it also has many other point of views. There's Memphis, who runs numbers for the gambling ring of New York. There's also Evie's friends, Mabel and Theta, and then there's also Evie's uncle's understudy, Jericho. So there's a lot of characters. They have various backgrounds. They're very interesting. Some of them also have powers. And I also couldn't help but see a lot of parallels with the Gemma Doyle trilogy, particularly that the event causes the main character to uproot from her original home to another location. They both have powers. It's very supernatural, and there's also a lot of diverse characters, and then the period pieces are very, very accurate. It really talks about like social constructs in these time periods and like what was okay, what was taboo. And so that was really interesting, and it really transports you into those time eras. And Libba Bray also writes a killer villain. Naughty Johnny is very, very creepy in this book. He definitely makes you like hold onto the covers tight if you are all bundled up, which I usually was reading this story. And it really makes you think about like the occult and different types of religions. So this book really hits off with all of those themes, and it is so fascinating. It was a little predictable in some points, especially towards the end. Some things did irk me a little bit with the ending. Not exactly the predictability parts, but the two people that were kind of picked as Evie's love interest. I'm not going to go into details for those of you who have not read the story. I'm just going to say that the two people picked for her love interest, I was not a huge fan, and the person that she ends up picking towards the end was a huge like slap in the face for me. I was, as much as I was kind of expecting it, I just didn't want it to happen, and because it happened, I was just shaking my head at it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things with this relationship in the next book, because this book didn't do a lot of relationship stuff. It was more in the background, because the murder and solving this crime was really the pivotal plot in the story, and so all relationships kind of took a back burner, which was kind of nice. I didn't really want this huge, heavy romance esque type book. So that was nice. That ending was still really killer. I absolutely loved it. I really can't wait to see what kind of villain will creep up in the sequel as well. And I really can't wait to get my hands on the sequel called The Lair of Dreams. I know there's gonna be a third book. I just know it hasn't been even released or announced yet exactly what the title is or anything like that. And I think the publication date is sometime next year, so I definitely have time to read the sequel. And I feel like this series can easily take it in the top ranks as a favorite series of mine. I'm definitely loving Libba Bray's writing style, and I highly recommend you pick up this book if you haven't already. And I think that is all I'm gonna say about this book. If you have read this book, tell me what you think about it in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye!